Folks,
The red mouth's gone.
welcome to Werewolf Radar, the world's premier paranormal preparedness podcast. My name is Jordan Dahl.
I am Nate Balding.
I am Roger Norquist.
This week's episode of Werewolf Radar is brought to you by the Monstroco Fire Extinguisher. Let's crank that bad boy back up. Monstroco. You don't want to hang this next to the fire extinguisher.
Ooh, I
They
can see
look
that.
exactly the same. Or you do. Bring a little spice into it, you know? Like if I get, you get a fire breaks out, a grease fire, you got a 50-50 shot, baby.
If you're a gambling man, you want this next to your fire extinguisher.
Could be a close shave, could be an insurance payout. Cha-cha-cha-ching. Monstroco Fire Extinguisher. Let's crank that bad boy back up. Can I go first?
Go first, man.
Can I honk into the speaking skull?
I like it.
Hop
Here it
into the
is to
school.
you.
Can I place my hands over the sequential holes on the back of the speaking skull and blow through the extendable tube and play it like a bagpipe of screams?
I love to dance to your music.
You guys like Trolls?
I do. It's one of my favorite movies.
I'm kind of obsessed with Trolls.
Troll,
Always
Troll
have been.
2, Troll Hunter,
Trolls Worldwide.
Trolls Worldwide.
Trolls World Tour, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, me and Kylie saw that movie because we wanted to see the baby rap.
Yeah. Tiny diamond is my name. Come straight from my daddy's name. My whole body's made of glitter, and I'll throw it in your face.
Hell yeah. Gotta see that baby rap.
It was bad.
Yeah. Pippies can't rap. They don't have the flow.
They haven't earned it yet.
They don't even know what they ain't yet to know. That's pretty good. Took me a while. I also have baby level rapping skills. I want to talk about trolls. This is what I know about trolls. Stout, warty, short, some would say ugly, mischievous, sometimes downright cruel, fey folk, sometimes depicted as sort of a little Cro-Magnon, perhaps. Pointy ears, the tail of a cow or a goat in some stories. Largely Scandinavian fey folk, kind of an elemental of ignorance and cruelty. In the David the Gnome series, and in that kind of whole mythology, the trolls were always chasing David. And they wanted to eat him. They had kind of a Gargamel vibe. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that was just for the show.
My understanding is also they like to eat the flesh of your more conscience. What am I trying?
Yeah.
More intelligent bipedal creatures.
Yeah, I mean, if we could go to the Hobbit, he runs into the trolls. They want to eat the dwarves. You know, this is kind of what they do. Kind of representative of inner anxieties about our own primitive nature, perhaps, or giving in to our own desires to kill and eat and destroy those weaker than us. Trolls. I found 3 stories online from Reddit and beyond of people who claim to have seen trolls.
Nice. I'm here for it.
I'm pretty pumped.
As
And I
someone
have a-
whose last name is Norquist, I'm excited.
And I have a bonus story for you guys from from an earlier version of this segment that didn't make it. So remind me about that at the end. This is the first story from a subreddit called The New Guards, whose suspicious description is the only place where the truth is told.
All right. At least now we know where to go.
Yeah. This is by You're an Oppa to Me. Large Troll Sighting is the name of this experience. I live on a farm in arm's reach outside of Haines Junction and have grown up hearing stories about Mount Archibald and the creatures roaming there. Naturally, I've blown them off as ghost stories or urban legends. My grandpa's story were the ones I remember most, about large creatures he calls trolls, who come out at night to eat children. They make for a good scary story, but I never believed there were an ounce of truth to them. Until yesterday. Did that have the spooky effect I was going for?
It did. The hairs are raising on my arm.
Love it.
Nailed it.
We don't normally go to the foot of the mountains, mostly because there's nothing of interest there. I mean, the trolls are kind of interesting, but whatever. But I must admit, partly because of the stories I grew up with and the fact that sometimes at night we hear eerie sounds echoing through the trees. I'll keep my experience from yesterday night short, as my wife is in a terrible condition and we're in the process of swiftly moving out after what happened.
Oh my, so serious and the most earnest.
See, here's the problem. Now
Sure.
I'm starting to be like, is this a fanfic subreddit? Is this a subreddit for some sort of ARPG that I don't understand?
No, I believe everything on Reddit
Okay.
and everybody clapped.
We went on our daily routine to feed the animals, all is well, until we noticed Botilda, the family goat, is missing, with trails leading towards the mountain. A slight annoyance at best, I thought, and not entirely uncommon. She has a tendency to jump the low fence of the little pen we keep her in, but I had a feeling something was different this time. Something felt off. We had heard the unexplainable echoes through the forest the night before, and I wasn't all too eager to venture out there to look for her, but my wife convinced me, so we set out. It was a few hours.
That sheep had to marry a troll.
Around 8 p.m., we heard her in the distance. I knew it was her because I've grown accustomed to her sounds. So we ran towards where we heard her and saw her standing on a small bridge. But something wasn't right. She was frightened and wouldn't move. That's when I heard it. The sounds I grew up with, which I had always figured was the strong winds doing some trickery, but it wasn't the wind. It was coming from under the bridge.
I know this story.
My wife and I froze for a second and stared at the moonlit bridge, everything beneath it covered in shadows when we saw movement. My first reaction was to run away, but I couldn't leave my wife behind, and she is not much of a runner, so I grabbed her hand and dragged her into a nearby bush. It didn't offer much cover considering the time of year, but it was all I could find. We sat there looking at the poor frightened goat when we saw what the movement under the bridge was. A huge, hairy arm suddenly appeared from below and grabbed our goat and pulled it under. We heard her scream for a moment, but then silence. We sat there horrified for what felt like an eternity before my wife, against all expectations, dashed in the opposite direction with the speed of Usain Bolt on a good day. I followed her, and I couldn't hear a sound from the bridge. I could hear the sound from the bridge becoming quieter and quieter. I'm sure what we saw was a troll, a real one. Not one of the dumb funny ones from the stories who can talk, but a horrifying twisted animal. I have no intention of staying here, mostly for my kid's sake. We will be gone within the next couple of days. Whatever you do, if you're planning a trip to the Kluane National Park, stay away from the God-forsaken mountain. Now this is a scene pulled word for word from the movie Troll Hunter. I recommend watching Troll Hunter.
It's a very good movie.
It's very good.
It does rule.
You will see the scene I'm talking about and you'll be like, oh, that's the story that person told. Is it a chicken egg? Did Troll Hunter get it from here? Who knows? This was posted 6 years ago.
My favorite part of Troll Hunter was when the atheist turns out to truly believe in God.
Yep.
And it betrays them all.
Yeah. He's a Christian. They can smell Christian blood.
He lied to the group.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's a really good movie. Talk about getting greasy. That movie, lots of grease action. The top comment, the only comment from 2 years ago says, "This is very interesting. I love that part about when your wife suddenly ran away very, very fast and surprised you. Has anyone else experienced anything similar? I've tried looking up the area to see what comes up, but haven't been very successful. I'm very intrigued." So there you go. A liar. Next up. This is from Paranormal Encounters 1 year ago. This is by Tress1012. This is titled Troll. I have a very real story of my interaction with a troll. This is not This is real, not some made-up story. In case any of you were feeling gun-shy from that last story.
I was feeling a little bit gun-shy, so thank you.
I am wondering if anyone else has ever had an encounter with a troll. When I was about 10, I was playing hide and seek and was hiding in our attic. I'd been in the attic many times, and it wasn't creepy. It was just another room in the house. The lights are off, so it was kind of dark with only light coming through the windows behind me. I was sitting on the floor and heard something walking toward me. I saw a short, stocky figure with longer, messy hair slowly walking towards me as if it was trying to figure out what I was. It came up to me, and I was so scared I just sat there looking at it. It reached out and touched my face. Its fingers were short and fat, moist. Its face was round, fat, and mushy looking. It smelled like wet dirt and moss, as if you walked through the woods right after a heavy rain. Once it touched my face, I got up and ran. My mother immediately went up there to see if someone was there and found nothing. I swear it happened, and it was real.
That's a very traditional troll. That whole description there.
That's wild.
I like how the troll did the face-off move to the child. Just draped its fingers down its face.
It doesn't sound particularly mean.
No, it's very quixotic.
Quizzical.
Yeah, quizzical. Yeah.
Sure. He seems curious and almost surprised to see the kid.
It seemed like an inquisitive touch, wondering what it is, seeing if it was tangible.
Yeah. 1 year ago, we got a response from someone called Zickywick. And they say, that sounds like a house fairy. Fairy is a loose term which encompasses leprechauns, gnomes, and brownies. In the olden days, every house had a fairy which could help with chores. These days, all of the contracts are gone, and none of the fairies live in houses for the most part. Pretty sure this is from Harry Potter. From your description, it sounds like you encountered a young leprechaun, or possibly a stocky brownie, or no. Interesting. Maybe it's not from Harry Potter. That's true. Brownies are of the earth and live underground. They come out for cream and honey, and they love cows and bees. They typically hate humans these days, but not all of them do. Some of them would hide inside of houses back in the days of yore and cause trouble. Back then, they called them house goblins. It sounds to me like you met your house goblin / leprechaun / brownie.
I could see that.
I think that's a really interesting, cool interpretation of that.
It also explains where all of my cream and bees have gone.
Give them some cream and honey. Give them a little bowl of it. You can swirl it like you do with the ketchup and the mayonnaise when you're making fancy sauce. Yeah.
Put powdered sugar everywhere on the ground. That way you know that where it went. You know,
and that way he has tasty toes. There's another response here that I want to read. This is extending our troll time by one story.
Extend it.
This is from Mom since '99. Oh, that means her kid is 25 now. So, 1 year ago, I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, still here. I saw something that fits the description of, quote, elves in my childhood home in the early 80s. I was very young, maybe 3 or 4, at least under school age. I was walking behind my mother out of my bedroom and towards the staircase to go downstairs. Out of the corner of my eye to the right, I saw something that caught my eye moving around a bit, and I thought it was dolls. I began to walk over towards these dolls as I was excited because, hey, moving dolls.
Not the experience I had when I saw a moving doll, but we're all different.
Yeah. I feel like I would have a different reaction as well.
I ran out of my apartment or my parents' apartment and hung out at the park until they arrived back home. And then when we moved, we lost the doll. So somewhere out in the world, there's a clown doll with balloons hunting me.
Mother grabbed my hand and led me toward the stairs away from them. She didn't seem to see anything there at all. She stepped down onto the first step and then turned her body around to pick me up and carry me down the stairs. As my mother picked me up, I was facing over her shoulder and in the direction of the dolls, at which time I caught a very clear view of them. There were about 4, 5, or 6 small little elf-like creatures. Well, I don't want to refer to them as creatures, as they looked rather humanistic. These small people things were about 3 inches tall, looked to be male, and all dressed in green suits. In the front of the window in the hall, there were 2 stacked on top of each other, and then I saw her. She was larger than the others, seemed to be about 8 to 10 inches tall, wearing a red dress and a red bonnet. She was stepping on the heads of the ones standing on top of each other, as if using them as a platform to look out the window.
Hot.
She seemed to be slipping around a bit, trying to climb on top of the other 2. And she seemed to make a rather hard stomp down on the top of one's head. They also seemed to be dropping her some, and as I saw them struggle, she looked at me. We made eye contact. Her face seemed to have makeup on it, and she had very bright red lips. But when she looked at me in the eyes, I felt her hating me. I was scared and felt very strange in my heart. I cannot describe how I knew what she was feeling, but I felt her hate me. They were moved from my view as we moved further down the stairs, and I felt very happy to be put down at the bottom of the steps because I felt like the female elf thing wanted to hurt me. I never saw anything of that sort again, although the house and the entire holler I grew up in was plagued with shadow figures and poltergeist activity. Also, my aunt, as an adult who still lives in that holler to this day and sees things to this day, says she had seen an elf-shaped shadow figure, all black in color, crouched down beside her cabinet in the kitchen, and when she walked into the room, it ran off. She said it was elf-like with a pointy hat, about 12 to 14 inches tall, all black, but shaped like an elf.
A lot of things about this. I love how the female elf is so dazzling in her appearance, and in combination with how clumsy they seem to be. Like, they're very comical elf to where, like, when they do stuff, they kind of slip around.
Yeah. It's very Pixar.
Yes, thank you. Very, very Pixar.
Yes, interesting textured beats to the story. We don't want the elves just standing there. Come on. What are they doing? Mix it up.
They're doing step fetish porn for me.
Okay, we're moving to the next one. And this one is not from Reddit. This is from the Pine Barren Institute, which we know from their excellent...
So, Jersey?
Yeah, we know from their excellent work as kind of a cryptid-centric blog. Check them out. This is by Adam Benedict. It is from 2019, and this is an article titled Cryptid Profile: The Trolls of Barron County, Wisconsin. I'm going to skip through the start, but right to the meat of it. The story takes place in 1919 and revolves around the experience of a teenager named Harry Anderson. So it's definitely, in my mind, the guy from Night Court. While most of the limited sources I came across state that Harry was 16 at the time of the encounter, it says that he was a judge in a local night court and an expert of close-up magic.
Times were different back then.
I made up that last part. His name's Harry Anderson. It's weird,
Yeah.
right? That's that guy. Nobody knows who he is. It's an 80s reference.
He was a magician in real life.
In reality, it doesn't matter, as the age of Harry is just one of those small details that gets lost to history over the time. It doesn't really affect the story, but anyways, let's get back to it. The story of Harry Anderson and the Trolls of Barron County goes as such. In 1919, Harry and his family went out for a leisurely drive in the family's new Model T Ford. Oof. Ah, the days of going for an automobile ride.
Back when there was only 6 other cars on the road.
What's your license plate? 6? I'm 3. Sucker. So they're out for a motor car drive in the Model T Ford. That's those old-timey ones. It was a relaxing summer evening, and the family didn't really have a destination in mind. They were just content with traveling the back roads of the area and enjoying each other's company. After some time, Harry's father made the decision to start their journey back home. It was now 10 p.m., and the It's 10 p.m. They're still out enjoying the scenery.
Just driving around. This is the fastest.
Oh,
You got to understand. This is the fastest a human has ever gone in human history. Like, it's blowing minds.
It is like the riding of a horse. Sure, this is like snowmobiles or something. Okay. It was now 10 p.m. and the family was quite a ways away from any major concentration of people. So they got their bearings and headed toward their home of Eau Claire. But as the vehicle made its way down the desolate, primitive highway, it encountered a problem.
Bum, bum, bum.
Surrounded by nothing but summer's darkness and moonlight, the vehicle came to a dead stop in the middle of Highway 25. A bit irritated, Harry's father got out from behind the wheel, lifted the hood, and instantly recognized that their new vehicle was in need of some oil. Not wanting to stay out in the middle of nowhere all night, Harry's father handed his son the small can of oil that he kept on the Model T and asked him to head up the road to see if he was able to find a farmer willing to part with some oil. His father would remain with the vehicle to keep watch over it, over both his new automobile as well as the rest of his family. Now,
this is such a fucking like weird cartoon situation.
I like how since cars had been a thing, man has always been neglecting to keep up on its oil maintenance.
Maintenance scheduling. Yeah.
Every 3 months, I'll push that. How about once every 3 years? This
was also in the they just gotten cars. So like at the dealership, he was like, okay, and what do I feed it? Hay? And he was like, no, you got to put gas in it. Oh, and the gas is its blood? No, that's like its food. If I guess its blood would be more like oil. Oh, how much gunk do I have to put in this thing, mister? And he doesn't know. He's got it all mixed up. Anyway, whatever. Back to the story. Now, the accounts that I found of this story make no mention as to why Harry was asked to venture alone down this dark highway. The only age I was given of anyone in Harry's family was him, so he was either 13 or 18. Whatever. You're rambling, okay? Either way, Harry took the oil can from his father with no questions, asked and proceeded to make his way towards an unknown farmer's house in the distance. As he walked through the warm darkness, oil can swinging with the motion of his arm, he came upon a sign on the side of the road in well-worn letters. The large sign read, Barron, Wisconsin. Immediately, Harry realized how far from home they actually were, nearly 60 miles. So with some added speed in his step, Harry made his way past the sign farther down the road. Eventually, he spotted a farmhouse in the distance, and not wanting to waste more time, he cut through the farmer's field, headed towards the door. Not much is said about how the interaction between Harry and the farmer went, but So apparently, there was 3 holes in this guy's barn, right?
Okay.
Behind one, you don't know this joke? Okay. But the teenager was able to get the oil without much of an issue and proceeded to make his way back to his stranded family. And this, fellow Sikhs of the strange, is where things get weird. I guess I could have started here. As Harry emerged from the farmer's field and back onto Highway 25, he took notice of something strange moving toward him in the darkness. The nervous teen placed the oil can on the ground at his feet, strained his eyes in the darkness, and attempted to get a clearer picture as to what could be coming his way. What he saw was completely unexpected and left him, in his own words, scared. Woo! It says terrified. I just thought it would be funny. Funnier if it was like a little frightened.
No, that was good.
From out of the darkness and moving directly towards Harry was what he could only describe as 20, count them, 20 strange-looking little men. Panicking, he jumped off the road and hid behind a tree as the line of strange creatures made their way past his location without even realizing he was there. Harry stood silent and watched with wide eyes at the odd sight taking place before him. They walked in a single file line, and each one was completely bald. They all had extremely white, pale skin, almost albino, and they were all wearing crudely fashioned pants that appeared to be stitched together out of discarded pieces of leather. This unrefined clothing was held up by what appeared to be thin straps that went over their shoulders. They stood no taller than a small child, and they were completely focused on what they were doing, marching. Along with the single file procession, the strange men were also thought to be speaking quietly to one another. Harry listened intently to make out what they were saying, when all of a sudden they all broke out into a strange song sung in unison.
Of course.
Now, before I continue with what they were singing, I feel the need to reiterate that this story is bizarre, and I am not making any of this up.
All right, what song were they singing?
Truly believed to have taken place in 1919, and it affected young Harry Anderson so much that he never wavered on the authenticity of his account well into adulthood. Now, let's get back to it. Somebody once told me the world is... No. As the little troll-like creatures marched on, they all simultaneously broke out into song and sung loudly in perfect harmony with each other. It was almost as if they all linked up and became one voice that was singing through 20 different mouths. Harry was able to hear every word, and upon retelling his encounter, he said it went exactly like this. We won't stop fighting till the end of the war in 1994. Sound off 1 2, sound off 3 4. Detail 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. Again, not making this up.
Was the end of the war in 1994?
1994. That's what they said.
It rhymes.
It does, but I'm thinking of wars, or that what was there a major war that ended there? Who are they fighting? What are they referencing?
The war between the Seelie and the Unseelie court.
Oh, true.
Maybe. Or maybe they were involved in Iraq.
Or maybe I just Googled it, the Rwandan Civil War?
Ah.
Or the Yemeni Civil War. Maybe they're globalist elves caring a lot about African and Middle East conflict?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think that we need to identify ourselves as globalists.
the Unseelie court.
I meant
always trying to police the world. After the little men finished their song, they went back to speaking quietly to one another and continued moving forward. Eventually, they came upon a line of trees along the side of the road and proceeded to march into them and out of sight. Harry could hear them shuffling through the underbrush until their sounds faded away and they were finally gone. Completely shocked and with heart beating wildly, Harry stepped back onto the road, proceeded to run the entire way back to his stranded family. When he arrived, he gave his father the oil can and the Model T started back up, and the family continued the long journey back home. Harry retold his encounter to his father and asked if any of them had seen the line of 20 strange little men marching in the moonlight. But sadly, they had not. The troll-like creatures had marched into Harry's reality and marched out just as quickly, never to be seen again. And that concludes the story, The Trolls of Barren County. Now, to me, these don't sound like what I understand to be trolls, but like I said in a previous episode, I think this is all kind of connected. I think these are maybe different words for perhaps similar entities. Takes all kinds. Maybe one of these entities, when you meet it and it's friendly and beautiful and enchanting, is a fairy queen, or an angel to some. Maybe you meet one who's an asshole, or even just having a bad day, and all of a sudden we got a story about a troll, or a boggart.
I can see that they're just like us, have good days, bad days. They're living a life that causes them stress and happiness.
The Fae folk are not a monument, if we know anything about them. Mercurial and strange, to our ways at least. These sound like gnomes or like dwarves, or really, if we're talking D&D, Sverfneblin. We're talking about some whisper gnomes here. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about these troll encounters in general?
There's something to them in our psyche. When my grandpa died, he thought he saw gnomes going around the house.
Interesting.
Yeah, constantly. They would walk in lines like you described. They had the pointy hats. These ones had hair, but
Nice.
same diff overall. You know, fairies aren't a monolith. They're all different.
No.
So I believe them. I think there's something out there.
Yeah.
I think there's trolls right behind me, dude, walking in a line, but we can't see them because we haven't taken enough Benadryl.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a foreshadowing to my segment.
Oh, well, hey, look, that is the end of my segment that I am calling Rollin' with Trollin'. And I am going to clean the spit valve on the speaking skull. And I am going to roll it on over to you, Raj.
Nate, do you mind if I pick it up and continue this little thingy bobber? So I have for us a segment on, or a rehashing with some recent sightings of everyone's favorite sleep demon, nighttime demon, the Hatman.
Yeah, putting out new shit weekly. The Hatman, top of his game, still crushing it.
From theweek.com, an in-depth look at who is the Hatman, shadow people, and sleep paralysis.
I have a theory.
What?
It's Bradley Cooper.
Oh.
The man's a chameleon.
Man is a chameleon. Have you seen him in that one movie where he looks totally different? It's impressive.
I saw that motherfucker become the guy from The Hangover.
What was that bad movie he was in? Maestro.
Gonna have to narrow it down a little bit, Ben.
Fucking phenomenally bad film.
Mr. Cooper, you're a wonderful actor, but I feel like Limitless could have gone a little through maybe another rewrite.
So I'm going to skip around in this article. I suggest you check it out. It was written by the Week staff. The whole staff got in on this one. Written by the Week staff. We're going to jump to who or what is the Hatman. People throughout history have reported seeing a similar nightmarish figure going back to ancient times and inspiring art and myths across cultures. People have described a frightening nighttime vision that paralyzes them with fear and seems to suck the breath right out of them, often by pressing directly upon their chest. This phenomenon is known as a shadow person, a concept that believers say is a ghost, but scientists attribute it to sleep paralysis when the brain wakes up before the body does and the person is unable to move. But something that's very unusual is that a lot of the time, all these figures look similar alike across nation, and that is a shadow person, typically of male energy when people are feeling the vibes from it, and they wear a wide-brimmed hat.
Yeah.
And
I'm pausing here to leave time for the
thoughts.
I'm the Hatman. Skibidi-bidi-bidi-bidi-bop-bop.
And sometimes we have sightings of tendrils behind them, very Cthulhian. Sometimes there's creatures that seem to be under his bidding, that he is like taking for a walk, you know, like a person with a bunch of dogs on leashes. The Hatman's been seen like that. Sometimes the Hatman has red eyes. Sometimes he doesn't have eyes, but they still feel him watching them.
How do we get the Hatman as a downloadable Mortal Kombat 1 character?
Well, you have to buy it on PC.
No, like how do we make that happen?
Oh, I got you. Well, what we do is we redact the CEO of the company.
Okay. Ed Boon.
Ed Boon. And the ransom isn't about money. It's about you can have them back.
If you put the Hatman, if you replace
the Hatman in there.
Kano.
Can we have reverse Raiden?
Yeah, just take out all the color from Raiden. Good enough.
What is he shoot? What is he the god of?
The Hatman.
Reverse lightning? He sucks the energy out of people. I guess that's kind of Shang's son. All right, carry on. Hatman.
So we have it there, and he comes by some. There's many different tales about him. It really is a cross-cultural, not a lot of information. No one's out there. This isn't something you can study really. It just happens to people. And I have some stories collected recently from Reddit in the subreddit Paranormal. And let's go into the 4 which I have collected. From one Darren0306, it is titled My Hatman Story from a month ago. This is when they posted it, but it happened in 1993. The story describes an encounter when they were 8 years old, and in their words, at the time my mom and I were living in a 1-bedroom apartment. I slept in the living room on a mattress, and my mom got the bedroom. I woke one night and went to the kitchen to get a drink of water, and as I walked towards the kitchen, I briefly glanced down the hallway to my left where our bathroom was, and standing in the bathroom doorway was what I can only describe as a humanoid figure, tall, with a top hat, and it was darker than the ambient light in our apartment. So we have a dark room, but you can still see some definition, and then something just pitch black behind it.
Yeah, you hear that a lot. Darker than the darkness.
Darker than the darkness. There were no lights, as I described, that would have cast a shadow, to where let's say some robes on a hanger, just positioned just right, casting a shadow.
Yeah, we've all had that moment in our bedroom or
in our apartments, in our bedrooms. No. Yeah.
It's Dracula.
My mom was asleep.
Cloak.
When I went back to look again, it was gone.
Okay. Hey, problem solved.
Problem solved, truly. Congratulations. Paranormal preparedness achieved. Now, the one thing I have thought about from time to time, the writer says, is why I was not absolutely petrified when I saw this being. If you didn't catch that, this is one of the few times when someone sees the Hatman or a Hatman-like creature and they weren't utterly stricken with fear. I've heard that he can be a harbinger of misfortune and emotional pain. My mom had a couple of miscarriages around this time, but shortly after this gave birth to my sister, who died as a result of birth defects. That's not really a but.
I mean, are we implying that the Hatman?
That is what they're implying. It was feeding off of the fetus energy.
Oh, wow.
Of the mom. So that's the first Hatman story. Let's continue on.
That's horrifying.
Let's continue. They're all horrifying. This isn't like your segment with the charmingly clumsy elves.
This is the darkest episode of Supernatural. This is season 5.
Yeah. From one numerous let 9877. I just saw the Hatman. ... Why?
Good question.
This is a pretty common plane, and I have never experienced anything paranormal in my life, but I'm pretty sure I just saw the Hatman. I was riding home from school on my bike at 11 a.m., broad daylight, and stopped when I saw a figure about 150 feet away from me. I usually wouldn't stop to stare at someone, obviously, because it is rude. Could you imagine a child or someone just riding their bike and stopping and staring at you because you are so out of the common? I wouldn't let it down all day. I'm very insecure.
Yeah.
Now, they wouldn't do this because they would think it would be rude, but I had the feeling this person couldn't perceive me or something like that. They looked like they were generally 10 feet tall, So big, even though he was far away. So like just huge. We're talking Sasquatch country tall. They couldn't see any features or skin. He was dressed in all black from head to toe, and of course was wearing a sort of flattened black top hat. His arms were splayed kind of away from his sides, and he seemed to be stuck in the middle of the road. What is that, like that T-posing type thing that people think makes a cursed video game, but is just bad programming, but still scary, but in real life?
Yeah.
This isn't a Hatman. This is just a terrifying monster.
Yeah, this is something entirely different, but just as scary. It's Hatman-ish. Then he started moving. He kept waddling a couple steps in one direction. I crossed a bridge to take my bike home. He's just like, stopping, then moving again. Cars just passing him.
Honking. Good work.
So I crossed a bridge to take my bike home, and not even 2 minutes later, I had run to the spot where the figure stood, hoping to see a dog walker or maybe a crackhead.
Yeah, maybe an errant magician.
Those are the three options in his community: dog walker, crackhead, or errant or magician.
I guess he would be magician errant. He's out magicking and questing.
Whatever was there was gone. So they went from slowly moving to either quickly moving and vanished the traditional way, or teleported out of this existence. They looked around the area, couldn't find any evidence or sighting of them. And this is a 10-foot tall being they're seeing. The person that claims that they are drug-free and this was not an hallucination. What was it? And I'm going to chalk it down as a Hatman style sighting.
That's gonna be the Hatman.
This next one is from Luda Goat.
Oh, that's ludicrous as a goat.
And is titled An Experience in My Home. I've always been on the fence about believing in the paranormal, but a few months ago, this is from 3 days ago, I had an incident that chilled me to the bone. I work long hours as a pipe fitter / welder, and usually have to wait a couple hours after I get home for my wife to arrive because she's a tattoo artist, so late hours as well. A couple months ago, I came home and my routine was as usual. I showered and spent some time with the dog, who's an adorable husky lab.
Oh.
They then sat in their recliner and relaxed with the dog in the lap. On this night, I started a movie on the TV and drifted to sleep. An hour or so later, I awoke by the dog letting a low growl toward the entry room. I was groggy, but at first I quickly realized that his hair was literally standing on end. This dog never growls or so much makes a peep, so this struck me as very odd. I turned my vision towards the entry room that he was growling out and quickly noticed a man standing. He had been watching me sleep, and it was so dark that I couldn't make out any features. Darker than darkness.
Darker than the dark.
But I could tell clear enough that it was a man, and he was wearing what looked to be a cowboy hat or a top hat, something with a very full brim. In that moment, I shouted, and the dog jumped toward the doorway, growling and barking. I raced to a drawer in the room that I kept the handgun in, grabbed it, and looked at the doorway to see nothing. In my mind, I thought it was an intruder. The paranormal never crossed my mind. I cleared the room, each room of the house, speaking loudly and clearly as I progressed further into the house, and I never found any signs of anyone else in the house. They've been in this house for a while now, and they've never noticed anything paranormal-ish, poltergeist-ish, so they don't know where this is coming from. This just happened out of nowhere a couple months ago, and the legitimate Hatman sighting, I feel. The last one that we have, and then I'll pass the skull, and I'll even shine it up for you, Nate. I'll give it a good polish.
Oh boy.
Don't put on your skull glasses because it's going to be coming at you a shining. From Instant Karmatic 15 days ago, Hatman Silhouette, which is always spelled so differently than what I want to assume.
Yeah, it's upward.
A few years ago, when I was in college and volunteering with my class at Black Mountain Neuromedical Treatment Center, located in Asheville, North Carolina, part of the Appalachia, we volunteered by painting outside and eventually going inside to work alongside the elderly. One day before leaving the center, I went to the bathroom to wash my hands. It was a fairly big bathroom and it was multi-stall, so I wasn't locked in there alone. But I was the only one who entered and exited at the time. So I'm washing my hands, and in the corner of my eye, I see a silhouette of a man in a hat.
That'll be Hatman.
And it just kind of approached from the door just over my shoulder and then walked back to the door and disappeared. No one was around the corner. I asked my classmates if they saw anyone enter or exit, and they all said no.
Hey, are any of you guys the Hatman?
Are any of you a darker than the darkness style figure wearing a hat?
Some of you guys the Hatman?
After they all declined seeing it or being the Hatman, the person, Instant Karmatic, said, "Okay, well, I'm ready to leave." I've always had intense paranormal dreams since I was a little kid, but this was the only time that I recall seeing something in the waking hours. And that is the conclusion of my short little segment that I'm going to title Hatman's Always With You. That's what the one footsteps are about. You thought it was Jesus. It was actually the Hatman carrying you.
It was the Hatman. It was the
one
Hatman
set of footsteps.
Chasing you guys.
The Hatman didn't abandon you. He was carrying you.
All along.
You know, to feast upon your innards, your energies. That's why you're feeling so sick as of late.
Yeah. Folks, that does it for another episode of Werewolf Radar. Thank you so much for your continued support of the show. We love you. We want to marry you. Please let us know if you will or you won't by this time next week. Shout out to Chuck from Snappy Little Numbers for our intro and outro song. Check us out on Patreon if you haven't already. Become a Dark Pit Council member. Get an extra episode every week. Purchase merch. Live forever.
It's the only way.
We're on YouTube. We're on Twitch. We play games. We delight the people. Please join us. Please tell your friends. Give us 5 stars wherever 5 stars are given. Anything else that I should mention?
I think that's it. The YouTube, the other thing, Bingo Bongo.
That's it. As ever, maintain the fight against the forces of darkness, but that does not mean that we cannot use dark magic against them. It is but a tool, and it is your intent that matters. Until next time, as ever, our sign-off line, please join us on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, punch
the sky, Spaceman Joe.
Spaceman Joe.